Lara, a millionaire woman, had always known the weight of the expectations that come with success, but something was deeply unsettling her. She loved her fiancé, but felt that her relationship with his family was not genuine. To get to know them in an authentic way, she decided to carry out a bold experiment. Disguised as a maid, Lara would dive into the family's daily life and truly understand how they saw her, without the mask of money and status. It was a huge risk, but Lara was willing to look beyond the surface and connect with the reality of each person, without the prejudices that had always surrounded her. A millionaire and having everything you've always dreamed of, but still feeling like something important is missing. That's what happened to Lara, a woman of humble origins who achieved success brilliantly. But for her, something was out of place. How did her fiancé's family see her? Was she just a rich woman to them, or something more? Lara, determined to uncover the truth, made a bold decision and disguised herself as a maid to deeply understand the true essence of her future family. What she didn't know was that this experience would not only reveal the family's reality, but also her own perception of what truly matters in life. What she didn't expect was that this journey would challenge deeply rooted prejudices and change, forever, the lives of everyone around her. Lara, a millionaire woman, had always known the weight of the expectations that come with success, but something was deeply unsettling her. She loved her fiancé, but felt that her relationship with his family was not genuine. To get to know them in an authentic way, she decided to carry out a bold experiment. Disguised as a maid, Lara would dive into the family's daily life and truly understand how they saw her, without the mask of money and status. It was a huge risk, but Lara was willing to look beyond the surface and connect with the reality of each person, without the prejudices that had always surrounded her. The challenge was great, of course. Lara knew how much her humble origins still weighed on her, even with all the success she had achieved. She felt that her story of overcoming often got lost in the shine of her current status. This disguise was not just a strategy to gain empathy, but also a way to free herself from the invisible chains that tied her to the past and the stereotypes of the rich woman. And who would have thought? What she discovered there could change everything, even her future. What she didn't imagine, however, was that the experience would be a true mirror of how prejudice was still rooted in small everyday actions. As she entered the house, disguised, Lara noticed the looks of disgust when she walked in with the broom, or the subtle words that clearly showed discomfort with her presence. But she knew that what she was doing was necessary. It would take patience to observe without reacting. And so, with her attentive gaze, Lara began to notice more than she had imagined about her future family. Their words and gestures spoke louder than any formal conversation could. Was she prepared for what she would find? Lara knew that her position as a rich woman might be an invisible obstacle. Deep down, perhaps the people around her didn't believe she had a genuine interest in them. After all, it would always be easy to be suspicious of someone who has everything. And here, as a maid, she had the chance to see who was truly willing to look beyond the facade of wealth. For her, this was more than mere curiosity. It was the key to building a relationship of trust and true understanding. Among the conversations, Lara noticed something that deeply touched her. The way the family treated the domestic staff was a direct reflection of their own beliefs about social class and respect. She could no longer ignore what was right in front of her eyes, the reality of those around her. And it was there, in the midst of almost imperceptible gestures of condescension, that Lara was certain that her decision was becoming a great lesson, both for her and for everyone around her. She was discovering that often the true face of someone is revealed not through words, but through looks and gestures. But what Lara didn't expect was that this experience would not only be an opportunity to understand others, but also to reflect on herself. As the days passed and she became accustomed to the role of the maid, Lara felt that her own view of the world and people began to expand. With each passing moment, she began to understand more about the challenges, struggles, and hopes of those who, unlike her, didn't have the privilege of a rich life full of opportunities. And this learning would change the way she viewed her own life and her future. Lara didn't imagine it, but her journey was just beginning. Soon, she would discover much more about the hidden layers of her family and what they really thought about her. What was about to be revealed would be something that would forever change not only her relationship with them, but also her own view of what truly matters in life. Lara had always believed that humble origins shaped character, and that made her who she was today. She knew how much her difficult childhood had taught her to fight and not give up in the face of adversity. Coming from a simple family where resources were scarce, she had always valued every step in her journey. However, as success and money came her way, something changed inside Lara. The memories of her childhood began to be distorted by the image of a rich woman who often felt disconnected from the world she came from. When Lara decided to disguise herself as a maid, it wasn't just a matter of trying something new, but a deep desire to reconnect with her essence. She felt that, deep down, that simple past full of challenges would always be a part of her, regardless of the luxury that now surrounded her. By posing as a maid, Lara found herself in front of a mirror, the reflection of the woman she had become, in contrast with the humble girl who once dreamed of succeeding in life. And, to be honest with herself, she needed to see this part of her life more clearly. What she didn't imagine, however, was that her humble origins would help her even more to understand what was happening around her. For Lara, there was something fascinating in the idea that, by returning to being simple, she could learn from the experience of others and, with that, rebuild a more human and respectful path. It wouldn't be a simple experiment, but a true journey of self-discovery. She didn't want to be seen only as the rich woman, but as someone who, deep down, knew what it was like to fight for everything she had achieved. This perception of her origins began to give a new direction to her perspective. Instead of feeling uncomfortable with the vision of what she had once been, Lara began to see the richness her humble beginnings had provided, the drive, resilience, and desire to do good, not just for herself, but for others too. At that moment, she knew that the key to her future wasn't in rejecting the past, but in using it to better understand the present. How could she, after all, transform the reality of those around her without truly understanding the struggle everyone faces? Lara, observing herself and diving into her memory of being a humble young girl, realized that true strength lay in never forgetting where she came from. Each time she spent more time in the role of the maid, she felt more connected to her true essence. The young girl who grew up in a small house, facing hardships but with lots of love, was there, aligned with the rich woman she had become. And, deep down, the two versions of herself had never been so far apart. Their union was about to create something transformative. Although she had reached the top of the financial world, Lara never forgot where it all began. The experience of disguising herself was more than just a simple experiment, it was a true reaffirmation of her journey. She knew that, regardless of the circumstances, her roots would always be deeper than any bank account could indicate. Lara was rediscovering what truly mattered in her life and, unknowingly, was about to have a great revelation about the impact of her origins. This reconnection with her humble origins began to transform the way she saw the world, but it also revealed something deeper. What would it take for Lara to use her personal experiences in an even more impactful way? This was about to be revealed as she continued her journey. As Lara became more involved with the routine at her fiancé's house, she began to notice something that deeply unsettled her: prejudices disguised as everyday actions. The way the family members spoke about certain topics, or even how they treated the servants, reflected a worldview she hadn't expected to find. It was as if they were trapped in a bubble of privileges, unaware that their words and actions demonstrated clear disdain for people of humble origins. With her sharp eye, Lara felt increasingly out of place in this environment, but she also knew that this was the perfect opportunity to learn what was behind these attitudes. She couldn't ignore the way her fiancé's mother, for example, looked at the servants. Lara noticed, during a dinner, how the woman treated them with a mixture of condescension and indifference. The worst part wasn't even the look, but the words. Comments about the lack of education or the need for instruction revealed a classist and prejudiced worldview that Lara had never seen so clearly. And what shocked her the most was that, even in her own home, Lara felt a disconnect from the reality of those who truly struggled every day to survive. For her, the issue wasn't just in what was said, but in what was unsaid. The silence of the privileged also spoke volumes. As the days passed, Lara began to question how much she herself might have unknowingly been complicit in this type of worldview. After all, she herself lived a life of luxury, in contrast to the hardships revealed by her disguise. But the real shock came during a conversation she overheard between her fiancé and his mother, in which they referred to the servants as simple people. That expression hit her like an arrow, as it was an exact reflection of everything she had tried to avoid: the separation between classes, the idea that some people were more deserving than others. Lara hadn't expected her suspicions to be confirmed in such a harsh way. By observing and listening, Lara realized that, for most of that family, the idea of success was restricted and exclusive. They saw people as divided by an invisible line between those who deserved it and those who didn't deserve. They weren't bad people, but they were immersed in a belief system that made them view the world in a distorted way. It was as if success was something reserved for those who already had it, for those who had been born with the right opportunities. Lara felt a growing unease as she realized that most of the people she interacted with didn't believe in true life changes for those who hadn't been born into privilege. This confrontation with the reality of prejudice made her reflect on her own journey. How had she, a rich woman from humble origins, gotten to where she was if she hadn't had the right to dream and fight for something more? The attitudes of her fiancé's family began to feel increasingly distant from her own experience, but Lara knew that what she was living through wasn't just a discovery. It was an opportunity to break through the barriers of discrimination. But how? The path she needed to take was still to be defined, and the answers were about to be revealed. Lara hadn't expected it, but this moment of revelation gave her a new purpose. She knew something needed to change, both in her relationship with her fiancé's family and in the way she saw society as a whole. She was about to realize that what was happening at her fiancé's house wasn't isolated but reflected a larger reality that she herself should help to change. The first step would be an internal transformation, something she didn't yet realize how much she would need for what was to come next. In the midst of that atmosphere charged with prejudice and class distinction, Lara found something unexpected: a genuine friendship. Camila, a young maid who worked in the house, was not like the others. She had a sparkle in her eyes, a dream that transcended the limits of the work she so longed for. Camila dreamed of studying management and, perhaps, one day opening her own business. It was fascinating to realize that, behind her simple uniform, there was a sharp mind, full of plans and potential. Lara was touched by her energy and, without knowing it, began to get closer to her, exchanging casual conversations as if they were old friends. What impressed Lara the most was the way Camila spoke of her dreams, never showing a hint of discouragement. For many, the reality of working as a maid could be seen as an insurmountable obstacle, but Camila had a different view. She believed that education would be her passport to change. Lara, with her own history of overcoming adversity, began to see in Camila something that made her ask herself, how can I help this girl achieve what she so desires? Like Lara, Camila knew what it was like to have big dreams, but no resources to make them a reality. And this connection between them, despite their class differences, became a turning point for both. The conversation between them soon became something deeper. Lara began to understand that what Camila faced wasn't just a matter of opportunity, but a system that limited her options. Camila spoke of the lack of time to study, financial difficulties, and how her family didn't believe in her ambitions. For her, the future seemed confined to an endless cycle of work and more work, with few chances of change. But Lara, with her life experience, knew that the real obstacle for Camila wasn't the work itself, but the lack of access to education and the lack of someone to believe in her. What Camila needed was a chance. The two began to talk more frequently, and Lara began to realize how Camila's presence, with all her determination, was leaving a mark on her heart. The young maid was not only teaching her about real life, but also about the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Lara knew she had the power to change Camila's reality. As a millionaire, she knew what it was like to be in a position of privilege, but she also understood that without the right opportunity, all the talent in the world could go to waste. She wanted to change that, and she was about to discover how. But how could she do this without seeming like she was just trying to save someone? How could she give Camila the opportunity to stand out without making her feel inferior? Lara began to plan something that could not only help Camila but also inspire others around her. The connection between them was about to generate something neither of them had ever imagined. Lara knew that Camila's future was in her hands, but she also understood that this friendship would be a learning exchange for both. And it was there, in the simplicity of everyday life, that Lara found a new perspective on what it truly meant to be rich, not in money, but in actions that can transform lives. The unexpected friendship between Lara and Camila was beginning to take shape, and both were about to discover that true wealth was in the ability to change someone's life. But what would Lara do with this power of transformation? How could she offer Camila the chance she so deserved? When Lara revealed her true identity to her fiancé's family, the reaction was, to say the least, surprising. Everyone was in shock, especially his mother, who couldn't believe that the woman who had been so simple and dedicated to the household was actually the CEO of a million-dollar company. At first, there was an awkward silence, a kind of discomfort hanging in the air. But what Lara didn't know was that her decision to disguise herself and immerse herself in the family's simple life would not only transform their perception of her, but also change the way they saw the world around them. By being honest and transparent, Lara deconstructed the image they had of her, but also the images they had of themselves. The big turning point came when Lara began to explain the reasons behind her choice. She didn't care about the masks of status and wealth. For her, what mattered was authenticity, mutual respect, and, above all, the love she felt for her fiancé. Her family, who had previously seen her as an unbeatable businesswoman, began to see something deeper in her. Lara was not just rich and powerful. She was a woman who had fought for her life, who knew the true meaning of struggle, and who didn't want to be judged by what she seemed to be, but by what she really was. This truth was a true revolution in the minds of her family. But the transformations weren't just in how the family saw her. Gradually, the people around Lara began to reflect on their own attitudes and behaviors. Her fiancé's mother, for example, found herself confronted with her own views of class and status. How could she, a woman who had always seen herself as superior to others, understand what Lara was going through if she had never put herself in someone else's shoes? This kind of reflection was not easy for the fiancé's family, but it was necessary. After all, from that moment on, they began to see not only Lara as a woman full of history, but also realized they had much to learn about empathy and respect. Throughout this experience, her fiancé's family began to change in small but powerful steps. The young woman who had once served them was now seen with new eyes. No longer as someone inferior, but as a person with stories, dreams, and dignity. For Lara, this was a direct reflection of the impact of her decision. She was not only challenging herself, but also challenging those around her to reevaluate their beliefs and attitudes. It was as if she had placed a mirror in front of them, and now everyone was being forced to look at their own reflection in a more honest and true way. These personal transformations began to manifest in subtle yet significant ways. The tone of conversations changed, the attitudes toward the employees began to soften, and even the way they treated one another became more considerate. For Lara, the most valuable lesson was realizing that in order to transform someone's life, one must first understand oneself. She knew that this experience had made her see the world differently. What she now saw was a world where empathy, respect, and equality needed to be more than just beautiful words. They needed to be concrete actions. Deep down, Lara felt that not only had her life changed, but the real transformation was happening around her. Her fiancé's family was beginning to understand the value of humility, the importance of treating others with respect, regardless of their class or origin. And Lara knew this was just the beginning of an even greater change that was yet to come. She now knew that something meaningful had been planted there. But what more was to come? And what more could she do to make this world fairer and more equal for everyone? Lara felt that her mission, by disguising herself as a maid, was something much bigger than she had imagined. Throughout her journey, she began to realize that she wasn't just challenging prejudices and building connections with unexpected people, but she was also in a unique position to change someone's life. It was in a moment of inspiration that Lara made a decision that would mark the rest of her life and Camilla's. Upon recognizing the huge potential of the young woman, who aspired to steady management, she knew she needed to do more. It wouldn't be enough to simply understand her struggle. It was time to offer a real opportunity, something that could concretely transform Camilla's future. That's when Lara had the idea to offer Camilla a scholarship for a management course and an internship at her company. She knew that Camilla wouldn't be able to afford the costs of college, but she also knew that the young woman was capable of achieving anything if she had access to the kind of education Lara herself had received. For Lara, the decision to provide this opportunity was a reflection of how she viewed the true meaning of wealth. It wasn't about money, but about opening doors and giving someone the chance to reach their fullest potential. By doing this, Lara knew she was not only transforming Camilla's life, but also planting a seed of change for a fairer and more equal future. When Camilla received the news, she didn't know what to say. It was as if a dream, one she never thought possible, was finally becoming a reality. To her, life up until that moment had been a constant struggle for survival, and the idea of studying management seemed distant, like a fairy tale. But Lara believed in her. She believed in her potential and knew that, with the right support, Camilla could achieve great things. This offer from Lara wasn't just a gift. It was a chance to rewrite her own story. Lara wanted to show Camilla that success wasn't only available to those born with privilege, but to those who had the courage to fight for their opportunities. The impact of this offer was profound, not only for Camilla but for everyone around her. For Lara's family, who were beginning to see the true power of education as a tool for transformation, it was also a valuable lesson. They began to realize that true empowerment didn't come from money or social position, but from the ability to give someone the right tools to achieve their own dreams. It was a lesson that Lara knew would have a lasting impact, and the simple act of offering the scholarship and the internship would change the course of Camilla's life forever. In her heart, Lara knew that the path she was building with this act of empowerment was opening doors not only for Camilla but for everyone who, like her, was born into difficult circumstances. It was proof that success shouldn't be a privilege, but a possibility for all, regardless of their origin. But at the same time, Lara understood that this act of empowerment should only be the beginning. She knew that by offering this opportunity, she was giving Camilla the chance to become a leader, someone who, in the future, could help transform the lives of others as well. Now, Lara saw herself not just as a rich woman, but as a person with the responsibility to use her power and influence to create real opportunities. The decision to help Camilla take a significant step toward her dream of studying management would not only change her life but inspire others around her. And by doing so, Lara was building a legacy much greater than mere financial success. She was creating a chain of transformation where empathy and respect became the foundation for true wealth. Lara knew that her journey, filled with challenges, overcoming obstacles, and discoveries, was just beginning. What she and Camilla had experienced together was not just a story of empowerment, but of deep transformation. By helping Camilla achieve her dream of studying management, Lara was opening doors not only for the young woman but for a fairer future, where origin does not define anyone's destiny. But what truly touched Lara's heart was the idea that she, a rich woman from humble origins, could, with a simple gesture of empathy, change the course of someone's life. She didn't know, in fact, the full extent of the impact that act would have. The real transformation that Lara experienced wasn't just the one within her fiancé's family, but her own. She saw herself as a bridge between two worlds, one where prejudice and discrimination reigned, and another where true wealth was found in opportunity and respect. And by extending a hand to Camilla, she was planting a seed of change. Not just for the young woman, but for everyone who knew her. The legacy Lara was creating wasn't only about the financial wealth she had accumulated, but about the respect, empathy, and opportunities she offered others. As time passed, Lara realized that true wealth lay in transforming lives and being the key to someone else's success. When you give someone the chance to grow, you're not just offering a favor, you're changing that person's future and, with it, the future of an entire community. Lara and Camila's story was a clear reflection of how empowerment and equality of opportunity can break down barriers and create new possibilities. And the impact of this would go beyond the walls of that house. It would be felt by everyone around them, by families and future generations who would benefit from the example of respect and inclusion that Lara had set. Lara also knew that her journey shouldn't stop there. She now had a much greater purpose than simply living in luxury. She wanted to be an inspiration for others, especially for women and people from humble origins, to show that it's possible to succeed, no matter where you come from. And more importantly, that it's possible to help others succeed too. Lara understood that by challenging the status quo and creating opportunities for people like Camila, she was creating a world where social class would no longer define anyone's potential. This shift in mentality, this deconstruction of prejudices, wasn't an easy task. But Lara was determined to continue her mission. She knew that every opportunity given, every door opened, would be a step towards a world where everyone, regardless of origin, would have the chance to shine. What began as a simple experiment in empathy was turning into a movement of transformation, and Lara was now a leader in a quiet yet powerful revolution, questioning the old beliefs about class, race, and success. As she watched Camila take her first steps in the academic and professional world, Lara knew this was just the beginning. The transformation was underway, not only in the lives of each person touched by this story, but in the way society was starting to see the true value of a person, by who they are, not what they have. And Lara knew that she had given Camila the greatest gift possible, the chance to transform her life and, with it, transform the world. Now that you've learned about Lara's story and how she challenged prejudices, broke barriers, and transformed Camila's life, I invite you to reflect. What are you doing today to change your reality and the reality of others? Have you noticed the opportunities around you to offer empathy, respect, and, most importantly, chances for those who need it most? Lara showed us that, while financial success is important, true wealth lies in giving others what they need most, a real opportunity for change. Are you living to accumulate or to transform lives? Think carefully about what you can do to positively impact the world around you. Don't wait for another moment to start. If Lara, with her humble beginnings, was able to take the first step towards a grand change, you can also make a difference. Now, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue following our content. We are together on this journey of transformation. What will you do from now on?